I started to be interested, like many people, when we started to hear that the US government, the CIA, and the military were torturing people in Guantanamo. And at the beginning, it was everybody denied, look at that, I put it on the side saying, oh, that's crazy, conspiracy things, not possible. The US doesn't torture people. And came out, that was probably my strongest inspiration, the book by that Mohamedou Slahi wrote called Guantanamo Diary. And when I read it, so, you know, so he spent 13 years in Guantanamo and he wrote what happened to him every day. And it's like mind-blowing. It's abuse of detainee and torture, like on a daily basis, psychological torture, physical torture, whatever. And so I decided to look more into it because I even tried to buy the rights of the book to make a movie about it. But even before that, you know, I went through all there were many trials at the time which were being conducted. So I read all the transcript of all the trials, all the book written by former detainee interrogators, even soldiers. Some soldiers wrote a book about that because they disagreed about what was going on, translators, lawyers. You know, there was tons of documentation. And I said, oh my God, we are in an insane world. Because, you know, the worst part of all of it, it's not, yes, terrorists are terrorists, and I understand that people feel they have to deal with it. That's absolutely fine. But what happened here is that Donald Rumsfeld, after 9/11, with George Bush and Dick Cheney, of course, you know, decided that they had to find the terrorists. And the best idea that's what he thought, that Donald Rumsfeld had, was to print millions of flyers that he dropped all over Afghanistan saying, bring me a terrorist, we'll give you a lot of money. And that's exactly what happened. So, you know, they were giving anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 per terrorist, which were brought to them, which is a gigantic amount of money in Afghanistan at the time. You know, it's many, many years of income. And so everybody started to turn in anybody. The neighbors, they wanted this land, the taxi driver, the political guy they didn't like, whatever. And the worst part of all is that the CIA never checked about the guilt of these people. They put them immediately through interrogation. Where is bin Laden? And the poor farmer said, who? Never even heard about bin Laden. Okay, you don't want to talk, torture. And they started to be tortured, you know, in what we call CIA black sites, you know, and there is one in the movie, which is Bagram Air Base. You know, and after that, the one they felt, you know, didn't had information they didn't want to reveal, they sent them to Guantanamo. And there was 850 plus people who were sent there. Most of them were never charged about anything, but most of them spent between 5 to 15 years in Guantanamo being tortured on a regular basis. So that tells you the answer why I decided to make a movie about that.
Totally understand. Why do you think the U.S. keeps Guantanamo with those 30 people now that haven't done anything, just to look good or to justify what? Because I think it costs 500 million a year to maintain.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I heard 300 million, but maybe 500 is correct, you know. So the real issue, I think, and you know, because Barack Obama even promised to close Guantanamo, Joe Biden promised to close Guantanamo, and of course they didn't do it. I think the true reason is that it's a total embarrassment for the US from A to Z. And every single time they release one of these guys, what happened? Of course, he'll make press conference, he'll write a book, and he'll explain the torture in all shape and form. And that's a horrible embarrassment for the US, so they prefer to not release them anymore. That's the reality. And they put themselves in a kind of a crazy situation, is that they convinced the entire world that these 800 men were the worst of the worst terrorists. You know, the worst of the worst means that even their own country don't want them back. You know, the country doesn't spend the time to figure out if Joe Blow is guilty of anything. They say, oh, we don't want them back. You just keep them. So now they created a program, and they are sending these people who have again been clear for release for many, many years. They are sending back in other type of countries. They don't have an identity anymore. They were stripped of their identity. They don't have any means to survive. They are left by themselves in the country they don't even know. You know, that's the situation of these people. And that is even insane. You know, I was one of the person supporting the film a lot is Fionnuala Niaolen, who is the human rights reporter of the UN, who wrote this damning report on Guantanamo. She's the only one who has been authorized to visit Guantanamo, and she wrote this damning report explaining the abuse of detainees on a daily basis and the use of torture. And she said we need to get compensation for these people. We cannot just take these people in, torture them for 20 years, without being able to prove anything about their guilt and ruin their life and send them back somewhere else and let them fend by themselves. They said not only they need financial means to survive, but they need even psychological help. When you have been tortured for 10 years in a row, your mind is not functioning right anymore, unfortunately. So that's why also we think the movie is important, because we need to get reparation for these people.
Imagine the hypocrisy of the US government with a propaganda machine, blaming innocent people of nothing just to look good. It's incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was the whole point of the Dick Cheney, Bush, and Donald Rumsfeld thing. Say, who cares if they are guilty or not? As long as we can say, they were, as you saw in the movie, they were manufacturing evidence of their guilt. They would take a picture, they would replace the guy with Bin Laden and say, hey, we captured a terrorist, which is insane, that the US government would manufacture proof, to legitimate what they do, which is totally against any kind of law, any kind of international treaty the US signed. It's like, where are we? We are in a total madness. That's what it is.
What do you think would be the reaction to your movie that is opening soon in the US?
Depends which way you ask, because of course, I'll tell you,
there's the Pentagon, let's say the Pentagon.
Yeah, well, they'll be very upset at me. Maybe they'll say, Philippe, you have to go back also to your country. But meaning it has been documented, so it's nothing new. But I think what is the human rights rapporteur from the UN decided to come on board is because she says, look, we have been fighting so many legal battles. We won so many legal battles against the use of torture and this and that. Did it change anything, in the policy of the government? Zero. We won legal battle. It's clear they cannot use torture. They cannot use, imprisonment without charge, blah, 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 all the list. The US government will not change a thing. So she feels that now we have to use other ways to convince people that is wrong by any standard whatsoever. And movies are great for that, because we have to, it's why if you saw the movie and you saw what I try to do, I try to put the audience in the shoes of the guy who was captured, kidnapped, and then tortured. I want people to feel, well, why would I feel if it was happening to me? Someone the police knock at my door one morning and say, come with us. And interrogation, where is Bin Laden? Say, who? Torture. Why would I feel about that? So it's why I put, as you saw, I put the camera. If the guy's under the black hood, I put the camera in the hood. When he's having a mock execution in a box, I put the camera in the box, because I want people to feel that. I want people to feel what it is.
Watch. It was unnerving because it's real. So
absolutely.
The last question, just can you introduce, we're going to use your voice to introduce the film. What is the film about in few words, Philippe?
Yes, so the film is about one of the 800 men who was, it's a feature film, of course, and I didn't want to use real people to not implicate them in any way, shape, and form. So what I did is that I created a fictional character, but I used pretty much everything that happened to these 800 men during their stay in Guantanamo, from A to Z, and I didn't create anything. Trust me, I could not even invent this kind of torture. It's exactly what happened to all of them, because it was a systemic, thing. It was not like, bad soldiers who were doing bad things to some inmate. No, it was decided by the government, and there was a specific list. I put General Miller in the movie, who is a true character. He was the head of the prison who designed with the Bush government, this new enhanced interrogation methods, to get this guy to talk. Unfortunately, this guy had nothing to say. So that's what it is about. Is one of these 800 men who was captured and sent to Guantanamo to be tortured, some for 15 years or 20 years, because as you said, there are 30 still there.
A new politic of